the whole system of the Enneagram would be incomplete if it didn't show you your shadow.
Right. And so this is the shadow work. Then once you get to a certain point within the Enneagram, it's about looking at the shadow, looking at the wound, and how do we use that? What's the message inside of that? Where's the wisdom? Everybody, welcome to Flip Your Lid. And let me tell you about the episode that you are about to hear. This is Suzanne Stabile. She is a widely read author. She is a teacher. And honestly, she's one of the most trusted voices when it comes to the Enneagram. And so, y'all, we just sat with her, and this is just Larissa and I sitting with her and having a very curious, candid conversation and connecting to each other and learning from each other, because this is the first time she has shared publicly about shadow work in the Enneagram. And so I'm just going to ask you to take a second and just kick back and relax, knowing that this is a connective conversation. This is something that we are learning as we listen to her. Larissa and I are, and I bet you're going to learn as you hear her expand on this topic as well. So get ready. Get ready to have your lid flipped and know that as you reconnect to yourself, it's going to be even better. Enjoy. All right, Flip Your Lid audience. I'm telling you, we took some time off from this podcast. And if you want to come back, well, you do it with the godmother of the Enneagram, Suzanne Stabile. And so my co-host is with me today, my beautiful wife and best friend, Larissa Miller. Hi, honey.
Hi.
Hi. So she's going to be a part of this today. Our big part of our marriage and friendship and spirituality has to do with the Enneagram. And Suzanne Stabile, as the godmother, has ushered in so much information for us that we know that you're going to hear something today that will shift you and flip your lid and help you be more of who you are. And if you're a frequent flyer with us, you know that we normally start with asking our wonderful guest about what flipped her lid and how she reconnected to herself. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're not doing that today because Suzanne Stabile did something that's not easy to do with me. She flipped my lid.
Mm-hmm.
She said something that I couldn't settle inside my system. And so, honey, Larissa, will you share a little bit about what she did to flip both of our lids?
Yeah. So she was saying at the workshop that we did here in Charlotte that the low side of our health number is where our shadow is. I'm saying that correctly. And so for Kim as an 8, that would be a 2. And for me as a 4, that would be a 1. And so we were both very curious about how this plays out with the whole Enneagram.
Yeah. So Suzanne, please take it from here. We're so glad to see you. This is the second time in a month we get to spend time with you. That is a blessing for us. But start wherever you want. But let's talk about the shadow side and our numbers and teach us, please.
Okay. Well, it's a treat for me to be with you again. And, publicly, again, I would say that we had the best time when we were with you and your people. And it was very honoring, and it was challenging in the sense that I don't know that I've ever taught anywhere where somebody offhandedly mentioned that hundreds of people are in the building during a week to do recovery work.
Yeah.
I've always said that if you want to really see church, then go to the church basement where recovery groups are meeting, because that's where church is happening.
That's right.
That's where you show up as you are. So to be with, I don't know how many people were with us, but a lot. Like
200 at least.
That's what it seemed like, at least. Who are showing up as they are. That doesn't happen very often. And Joe and I found ourselves kind of hanging around at the end of the day, hanging around to see if anybody else wanted to say something, just hanging around. And so thank you again for that. And anybody who doesn't know about your community, I'm sure that you share that regularly. I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I also would say that I'm excited to talk with you about this theory today that I have. And it's the first podcast where I've talked about it in all 9 numbers, including my own.
Wow.
So that tells you a lot of things. The first is that I trust you deeply. The most important thing is it's time for me to talk about it. And it's not time right now for me to write about it because I'm doing some other writing. So I'm going to start talking about it, which is how I learn everything, because I talk it and then people tell me what they agreed with and what they didn't agree with. And sometimes they're right and sometimes I'm right. And that's how we make all that.
Yeah.
First of all, you know that I say frequently, if it's not helpful, it's not the Enneagram. And I also believe that every line on the Enneagram matters and that every possibility within a number matters, from healthy to pathological. So if I follow with that belief and I try to connect every line to every other line to go from one place to another, then ultimately I have to go top to bottom and then bottom back to top. And something was missing for me in the beginning of my learning the Enneagram, when everybody was essentially saying, when you're stressed, you go to the low side of your stress number. And when you're secure, you go to the high side of your secure number. And I watched myself for a year and thought, no, that's not what I do. That's not what Joe does. That's what we sometimes do. And so it's clear to me from doing work with being in stress. As a 2, I go to 8, so I become Kim. And
congratulations.
Thank you. It's very life-giving for me, actually. I understand why you like your number. And I'm sure by the time I finish today, you're going to understand why I struggle a little bit with mine. So what I wondered about then is, okay, I believe that I can learn 8 behavior by intuitively experiencing that when I'm stressed. I also believe I can then access that behavior. Does the stress piece mean that if I'm real stressed, then I go to the unhealthy? But if I'm only kind of stressed, I go to the healthy. How does all that work? And if you had a drum roll, now would not be the time to use it, because I'm not sure yet how that works. But I know that's true. Okay, then that has to also be true in your security number or your health number. So I started working my way as a 2 up and down, healthy, average, unhealthy, excess in 4. And I just would read about it and read my notes about it and think about 4 and think about unhealthy 4. And then after about 6 weeks of that, I started to notice myself at times when things were going pretty good, just acting like a brat. And I was in unhealthy 4, where I deserved to be treated differently. And I deserved to be in the right relationship. And I deserved to be understood. And so then I also observed myself withdrawing with the intent of being mysterious. Like, you're not going to know what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, because I'm not going to show you. And then I thought, have I been doing this my whole life? And the answer was, yeah, sometimes. And so I thought, okay, well, then I'm going to start watching everybody else. And y'all know that when I'm writing, I can't do without 4 space and energy and way of being, because I'm always focused outward and I have to focus inward. And in trying to focus inward, then I am aware that I have to get through some things about me that I don't like to get back to the secure spot. So I thought, well, what's that about? Why is that here? I'm supposed to not deal with that here. I can imagine dealing with that in my own number, going to unhealthy too, but why am I dealing with that over here? And in that reality and observing other people for maybe 2 years now, it's become clear to me that the shadow side, meaning the part that you don't see, the part that other people do see, the part that you operate from saying and doing things you wish you hadn't said and done, is a surprise to me when it looks like things are pretty lined up for things to be okay, which is what I call security.
Well,
Kim, I'm wondering if you might just give us like a definition of what shadow is from like a
Sure.
psychological perspective.
Sure. So, Suzanne, all that is so intriguing to me as a psychotherapist, especially knowing like I have respect for Dr. Carl Jung and how his work has very much been the first intersection with spirituality, with Christianity, and studying him and the shadow work that he brought. He's the first person to really start understanding that you go through childhood, and this very much goes into attachment strategies, attachment orientation, that you consciously learn certain things about how to be in the relationship, and you repress things that won't let you stay at the family table. And certain things become unconscious. There's a subconscious happening. And that's Carl Jung's work about that in your shadow is the subconscious, and that without some effort to go into that and to go into whatever the shadow is, that you will continue to think that things are happening to you and that you're not responsible for it. And that goes into one of his famous quotes, which is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And he emphasized, without figuring out what is the shadow work for you, then you will continue to think that things are happening to you and that you are without choice because it is subconscious. So when you said that and what you're laying on the table today for us, of really understanding the low side of our number, there's something there that we've had to repress, we found repulsive. There's something there that will continue to find its way out sideways until we do the direct work.
Can I give you just a very specific example?
Yes, please.
So as a 2, I go to 4 in security. And when I am in my shadow in 4, I am entitled. I'm entitled to be treated a certain way. I'm entitled to get paid a certain amount of money. Y'all know I don't live that way. Boy, it shows up there. And so based on what you just said, I was just thinking, as a child, an adopted child in a community where everybody knew I was adopted, and that was talked about. I was introduced as Doc and Sue's adopted daughter. Isn't she lucky? And I am lucky, and all that's true, but still.
Yeah.
And so I could easily, if you and I were in a session, you were saying that to me, I could easily say, I absolutely never felt entitled to anything.
Yeah.
I felt like I was lucky to have it all. And my parents didn't do that to me, but the community did.
Yeah, that's good.
And they were trying to love me well. They didn't, there was no malice there.
Yeah.
But I was just told all the time how lucky I was. Well, when that's what your identifier is, then you're not entitled to even this because you're so lucky. Right. And you're for sure not entitled to anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's profound. I want to give an example from my life. And then Larissa, if you want to speak into this, like just thinking as a child, knowing like today that on the intelligence centers, the 3 intelligence centers, feelings for me are repressed because as a child, when I had obvious and normal feelings, the fact that put me in jeopardy, and I was more of my mother's target of her abuse when the feelings were there, and that became repressed. It became what I had to do for her, the appeasement I had to do for her, which means I had no awareness of what I wanted or needed. I had to make it about her for my safety, and it came about her needs. And so to hear that I go to 2 in health, and that is where the place of feelings and needs, I'm immediately repulsed because that was dangerous for me and makes me weak and makes me who she said I was and ... And that's part of why I'm so intrigued. And I would love to hear from you, Larissa, if you have an example of how it kind of makes sense for you.
I don't know if I have an example from childhood, but I have a hard time with ones. It just generally, I mean, healthy ones are different, but so I know that I wouldn't like that part of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you're
I
giving
got.
us.
That's all I got for now.
Okay, well, this is not my podcast, but I'd like to hear like 4 more sentences about that.
Well, okay.
What would
I'll
you
try.
not like about yourself?
It's like this control. I don't really like to feel like I'm buttoned up or like I can't just be more free. And so when I feel like bottled up, that's kind of what I connect with one. I don't know if that's a correct judgment on one. And so, yeah, that feeling of needing everything to be just so, I don't like that feeling.
Right. And so I think maybe I've seen you at your one of the ways that you're most secure, and that's when we were there and you were in charge of where to sit, where to stand, what to say, where to put your microphone, do all the things because you were producing the whole thing for everybody.
Mm.
And it was fascinating to me after spending a year with you and our cohort and other time outside of that. It was fascinating to me to watch you get into that one space.
Mm. And thank you for saying that, because I always thought that was 3-wing when I'm in like producer mode or director mode, but that's one, because I do like that part of me. I like that.
Yep.
It feels very natural to me.
Right. And that's what makes you so good.
Mm.
So you wouldn't be as good at it if you were accessing 3, because 3s skip steps.
Mm.
And you weren't having any of that.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. It's a great observation of you. Yeah, that's great.
The chairs will be here and you will get in them and then you'll be done and then you'll come here and then you'll do this and do this. I'm grateful for all of it. Like I have nothing negative to say. I'm just saying. And I bet you, if you think about it, there are times when you can't make all that work in that one space. There's no reason for you not to be secure in one. You have years and years and years of professional experience doing what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you would go.
Yeah.
But that's just a natural. I go straight to 4 because I have years and years and years of doing this. And sometimes in that space of security, I behave badly. And I used to think, oh, did I skip 2 and go back to 8? Like, what does that look like? And it never looked like 8. It always looked like unhealthy 4. And for you, it's unhealthy 1. And what you're talking about in your language that you described it is unhealthy 1.
Okay.
Not precise, exact, do it the best you can for everybody, including yourself, 1, but buttoned up and having to, that's not you in my experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, and Larissa, I would think that in personal relationships, when you think of one, I know in our life we have a lot of very healthy ones, but for you to go in one and think that you're the only one know what's right, or to be critical of someone, that would have so much emotion to that for you. In theory, I think that would be very difficult for your system.
Yeah, it just wouldn't feel natural or like authentic to who I am.
Yes,
to be that critical.
Right. And so that's why you don't like it in other people. You know, all of this, it just highlights for us the things that we criticize in other people. That's part of the shadow reality.
Yeah.
And so then, Kim, you're the psychotherapist and I'm not. That sentence has a period at the end of it. And that's it. However, I do know a thing or two about the Enneagram. And if we talked about that, your context and the reality of your childhood and 8 moving to 2, and the low side of 2 being the shadow spot. The trick there is that when I'm in the low side of 2, I give myself away by giving everybody what they want.
Hmm. That makes
So
sense.
giving everybody what they want. This some of these spaces look a little more generous and lovely than they are.
Yeah.
And so excess in my number for me as a 2 is giving everybody what they want.
Yeah.
And excess is the last step before relapse if we're talking about recovery.
Right.
And so for it to take you someplace where you are trying to give everybody what they want, but that's triggering for you, then the thing that you would have to offer that I don't have to offer is in your field, what happens to each of the 9 numbers in their shadow space. I can get you to where your shadow is.
Yeah.
But that's where my work stops, and I'm smart enough to know not to go farther than that. And I think the whole system of the Enneagram would be incomplete if it didn't show you your shadow. It wouldn't fit with any other wisdom that we have that was revived in the 1940s and 50s. It just wouldn't fit with any of it.
Yeah. Well, and the basis of all this, because again, we're not into trendy Enneagram. This is about spiritual transformation. This is about wounds turning into wisdom, right? And so this is the shadow work. Then once you get to a certain point within the Enneagram, it's about looking at the shadow, looking at the wound, and how do we use that? What's the message inside of that? Where's the wisdom? And so just wanting to learn whatever we can from you about each number and where that goes and what that looks like, so people can start doing their own self-exploration or taking this to the therapist, because this is life-giving, what you're saying.
And what you and good therapists are able to do with it can be life-changing.
That's right.
So do you want to run through the numbers and let me speculate
please do.
with you?
It'd be great. Yeah, let's speculate together.
Okay. Let's start with 9s, because that's Joe, and I'm very familiar with him and familiar with watching him. He's a good one to start with. And on the other hand, because of his history and because he's Joe, he's not a great one to start with. So I'll have to think of his worst moments. When 9 goes to 6, a good thing happens. A really good thing. And we have to keep on the table while we talk about this, that the number that you go to in stress, you can't take care of yourself without that number, period. You cannot do it. And the number that you go to in health or insecurity is what you need to experience holistic healing. And I said that before I'd ever thought about the shadow being in the number that you go to in security. That thought had never crossed my mind, but I did know that much. So for the central triangle, things are different than they are for any of the other moves on the Enneagram.
There we go.
And the reason for the difference is that there are only 2 options for everybody. And when they're caught, Richard Rohr calls it the train. When they're caught on the train, then it seems to take them places.
So 3, 6, and 9s.
So those 3 numbers move more with their stress and security number than any other numbers on the Enneagram. And all 3 of them do it. And it's fascinating and disturbing to watch. And it's complicated for them. So, 9s, just keep in mind, the lost childhood message for 9s is your presence matters. So you take 9s to 3 in security, and their presence matters, and they discover that. But it's very confusing because they don't know what to do with the fact that their presence matters. And they spend enough time and stress in 6 to start trying to use a 6's way of evaluating and checking to make sure things are safe. They start to use that as habit in 3 when it's not necessary.
Yeah.
And when they do that unnecessary step, it takes them to the low side of 3. So they go from usually lots of humility as a 9. Joe has a lot of humility. And honestly, y'all, if you could see what happens over a period of time, he puts on his robe, he puts on his stole, and he's a different human being. And he's a 3.
Yeah.
Looks like a 3, acts like a 3, talks and walks like a 3. That's who he is. And in that space, then, which is what he's been preparing for since he was 14. And it's what he's always wanted. So in that secure space, though, what happens to him is he gets quietly judgy. And he compares preachers and their ability to preach. The things that he's the best at, he looks at other people and evaluates. That sometimes becomes judgment.
Yeah.
Nobody expects judgment from a 9.
Or definitely not from Reverend Joe.
No. Right?
Yeah.
You just don't expect any.
Absolutely not.
And there's not much at 78. You know, he's got way less personality than I do. It's hard for my personality to live with so much essence, but it's also great.
Yes.
So here's a very tricky thing, though, that happens. So we got a secure 9 who is so secure about how they do something, they're feeling a little judgment about how other people do that. And that's its own thing. But the fact that there are 2 sides to everything means that then they start to evaluate themselves. And then that creates or doesn't create more security, which means they either move up in the security number or they don't. And then the shadow begins to overshadow the 9. And if the 9 has a big 8 wing, it's worse.
Yeah.
Because that's already uncomfortable. So there's no number on the Enneagram that has to deal with both sides of everything than the 9. And there's not another number that has a more dramatic move than, observably, than a 9 who moves to 3. And what is disconcerting is not when they move into 3, it's when they move out and go back to 9. Because we begin to expect that kind of clarity from them. And Larissa, the same's true for you. When you come out of 1 and go back into 4, you don't have the same clarity about things.
Or energy.
Right. But people expect that from you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know exactly where to get that. Whereas for Kim, people aren't expecting feelings. So if they get them, it's like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yes. And then if they're not getting them, it's, oh, good. She's back to Kim.
Yep. 100%. So true.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I could see people in my professional life not seeing the quote unquote 4 part of me. And so they might be shocked to see that part. And then people that only see me in 4 space would probably be shocked to see me in my professional mode.
Yep.
And Kim gets to see both.
Yes. Which is why I want to move in with you, Suzanne.
I guarantee you don't. You might be happy next door, but you for sure don't want to move in with me. Since we're kind of right here, I don't know where I even think right here is, except I want to talk about sevens next.
Okay.
Sevens and ones. I think the thing that got my attention about your shadow being in the low side of your security number is ones when they're secure going to 7. And the example I use is someone who travels for work. And I'm going to use a man, but it could also be a woman. A man who travels for work all the time, he uses the company credit card. He's gone from home a lot. But because he's on the road, he's in 7. Because in 1, they have to perfect everything, clean everything, take care of everything. Well, when they're not home, they don't have all that pressure. And I say that ones need to go on vacation. If you need to go away once a month for a day somewhere for 24 hours to get away from your critic and all the things that you have to do. But when ones are secure and they go to 7, there is what has been called the trap door in Enneagram talk for them, because they can fall through the trap door into 7 space. And the trap door is excess. So let's say this salesman grew up with a fundamentalist background, hadn't had a lot of life experience, is married and has a couple of kids. And he's usually using the credit card from the company for whatever he's traveling for. But he happens to end up in a hotel room where pornography on the TV doesn't require purchase. And pornography hasn't been a part of his life ever. So he doesn't even know what to expect. But going through the channels, it comes on the screen. And it creates the responses that ones spend their lives trying not to have because they are instinctual. And then it's like, what do I do? What do I do with this? When they go to the low side of 7, because they're secure and things are, all's well, then that's a very dangerous place to be. And it's not that dangerous, I don't think, for any other number to be in the shadow part of their security number.
Whew, that's a beautiful and strong statement.
And so what they come out of that with is anger at themselves, because anger is their default emotion.
Yeah.
And then they respond with all of that rules and what's right and what's wrong and who's good and who's bad. And everything becomes dualistic all of a sudden. And the confusing part of that is that it's always been the place where they were the most comfortable and the least stressed. I have believed for all these years that if I could just talk about the trap door for a little minute, that ones would know to look for that. My dad was a 1 on the Enneagram, and he was a different human being when we went to Lake City in the summers to fish or when we were traveling. And I loved those times with him, and I loved being with him. And I think that's what makes me so interested in doing this work, is because I think what we do in our shadow selves surprises us. And sometimes I think we try to handle the surprise by taming it. But you can't tame your shadow unless you can, Kim. I don't know. It feels to me like it has the power and the strength that it has, and you can't tame that. I can ask my 3 questions and not offer help to people who don't want my help. I can do those kinds of things. Yeah. But I haven't had much luck not feeling entitled.
Suzanne, what I think this, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is what I've seen people who are trying to tame it. They don't really know what it is. They've just been taught within religion, within family, some system that they can't be whatever that is, that they go into the collective shadow. They find a church, or they find some type of group. They find some community that everyone is all trying to tame their shadow, and they're constantly reminded that whatever that is, it is bad, it's inherently wrong, and to continue to repress. So then we're collectively, now we're just angry about this group over here instead of what's actually happening internally.
Right. That's exactly what happens. And then the guilt and the shame that comes for a 1 taking risks with behavior in the low side of their security number, because that's their shadow. 1s then are caught because it's instinctual. So what do you do? What do you do with that? Feel guilty.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? Find somebody who says, in fact, you should feel guilty.
Yep, that's right.
And then sometimes, maybe frequently, that's followed by what I would label as bad theology.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then one wonders, do we choose denominations and do we choose churches based on shadow needs?
Yeah. And I think we do. I think we're very subconsciously driven because we're subconsciously driven until we make it into our consciousness. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly what I think too.
Relationships and friendships and all the communities as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also why people fight really hard to get out of abusive marriages, and the next person they marry and the next person they marry has a different name and the same behavior.
Right.
It's shadow work. It needs to be done. Doesn't make it the person's fault, but it is our work to be done.
And I am very concerned about churches that count on being able to manipulate because of a lack of awareness of one's shadow and the fact that it just feels good to have somebody say it's wrong, and if you do these 5 things, you'll be okay. And then you do the 5 things and you still have the shadow.
Right.
So I really want to talk about this vulnerability, and I realize we may spend more time here than on other numbers, but it's required. Think about the vulnerability of the things that you believe are absolutely not right. And your goal as a 1 is to be correct or right, to be good. And you go to 7, insecurity, and it's so lovely to have a little more freedom until it isn't. So then when you get over to where you're supposed to feel kind of relaxed and good again, you still have this little thing of, but what if I do the wrong thing? Whatever language one would use, I just can't even say it. That's always going to be there. So that means you have to learn about the thing and about your instinctual drives so you don't spend the rest of your life fighting that, whether or not you're in good space or tricky space.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're in 5 space as a 1 or 7 space.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the hard one, I think. They're all hard, but and Kim, I would guess that when you are working with a 1, no other number is as hard on themselves as they are. All the time.
And there's a certain fear of doing the work. They just want a formula.
Yeah.
They want to know it's right. And they walk away from the pain very quickly. They just want to know what podcast let's do, what to read, what to do. And there's as amazing and tough as they are, there is a low distress tolerance because they have to get it right.
And there are very loud voices in Western culture that say what's right, that offer a very narrow path to walk as a human being.
Yeah.
So you mentioned ones are the hardest on themselves. And I'm wondering, because I feel like when I'm in an unhealthy space, I can be extremely hard on myself. Is that my shadow? Is that me in low 1?
Yes, it is. And except it has, you have a bucket of feelings that is so much bigger than a 1's bucket of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's lovely, but it's harder to get out of.
Mm-hmm.
And you're more familiar with longing and lonely and different and unusual and unique. And, you have so much to choose from that you can, respectfully, I'm going to use this word because I think it's the word, you can wallow.
Yeah.
Kim, you can never use that with Larissa unless it's in all love, grace, and kindness.
In lowercase. It will all be lowercase. It won't be screamed.
No. Never, never, never.
Never.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you want to talk about 7s going to 5? The move from 7 to 5 is not welcomed by anybody. Joel is our favorite 7, so we'll work with that for a little bit. Joel's kids don't want him in 5. They want him in 7.
I bet. Yeah.
And when 7s are secure enough to not be participating in everything that could be fun and humorous and a joke then literally we all turn to them and say, "What's wrong with you? Or do you not feel well? Why aren't you behaving this way?" And so it's almost like they have a slide that can take them from just being healthy in 5 to the pit of 5. It happens really fast because people are pushing on them to be different than they are. And it's hard to stay in the high side of 5 when that's going on. But low side of 5 works. So then they pull back farther. And then this is the line. They become observers rather than participants. When they are, in general, almost always participating or not there.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah.
And that observing place in 7s lends itself to gluttony, which is their passion. So gluttony then is, I don't need an hour, I need 2 hours. Gluttony in the low side of 5 is, I need more distance. That's the best way to talk about it.
Yeah.
And there's no way that you go anywhere on the Enneagram without your passion. It's with you. And your default emotion is always with you. So then 7s are in 5. If they pulled back a little bit, but they were still present, then they started observing because they got so secure. And then after the observing, they just went into some place where they don't normally go. The result of that is, I think, a reaction that they connect to movement and doing. And so I think they try to manage not ever being there with not stopping. When stopping is the only thing that will achieve more time in security. So it's how am I gonna do that?
Yeah.
So if stopping comes with criticism, and then
Mhm.
stopping comes with ending up in a place that you don't like,
Yeah.
then do you, Kim? This question is for you. Do you then intuitively avoid the secure space?
Well, the idea of, because certain numbers I can hear here and stop would be very welcoming. But for a 7, the idea of slowing down a process and heightening awareness and stopping, and like the thing that's allowed them to not feel whatever it is that they have avoided. Like it has been intentionality of welcoming.
Right. That's what I think too.
Yeah, because they're no longer going to feel the level of safety that they've had. Yeah.
And I think it's because of a lack of control.
Mm. Yes.
It's like, I'm just going to take the afternoon and do nothing. I'm going to just sit for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Joel now only smokes 1 cigar a week, but he likes to have a cigar every once in a while. And as a 7, I can see him thinking, I'm just going to go outside and for a while, and I'm going to smoke part of a cigar, and I'm just going to rest. And then one of the kids wants him to do something, or somebody calls, or something happens, and then it's I deserve to rest. They're thinking, so I'm going to keep resting, and I'll keep an eye on what's happening. And that's one of the moves right into observing rather than participating.
Right.
And so then the Enneagram work is, how can you participate as an observer, and how can you observe as a participant?
Yeah, that's good. And I would add in shadow work, being able to observe without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
The observation with the judgment wouldn't allow any movement. Yeah.
And when they're in stress, when 7s are in one space, they're very judgmental about the things they know a lot about. They're right and you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even as children. As children, they're very sure of themselves in terms of what's good and bad, right and wrong, up and down.
So if a 7's in 5 space and now they're getting judgment from everyone else because no one else is happy they're there, and they're not necessarily secure there either, then I would think they would avoid. That would be another layer to avoid it from my perspective.
I think the shadow would say it this way. I did this, and this, and this, and this, and I felt like I had done all the things I was supposed to do, and I just was taking some time for myself, and look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the low side of 4, just imagine me as a 2 feeling entitled and I deserve this.
Yeah.
And then coming out of that and thinking, I don't think that way at all. What is that? And I think it's because we've not been led or encouraged to do shadow work, and it seems like you have to have a lot of help to understand it because it's Jungian and all of that. So obviously, Kim, and the good work that you continually do all day, every day, making it approachable.
Mm-hmm. And part of that, and I really appreciate you saying that makes it approachable, is teaching people attachment orientation first, because shadow work and attachment strategies lay on top of each other, just like the 3 intelligence centers lay on top of Enneagram really well. And because you're going to go into a different attachment strategy when you go into low side of that number.
Wow.
And so you're going to have to do the antithesis of what's been comfortable for you.
Yeah.
In order to stay there a little bit longer and start having a new experience within your system. Yeah.
And so if we use me as an example as a 2, what's really comfortable for me is helping somebody.
Right.
Whether they want my help or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when I've done that and I'm secure in that,
mm-hmm.
and then I sit back because now I get to just chill,
mm-hmm.
then I have the awareness of behavior that I can't get back.
Right.
Time I can't get back.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that when you're in your 2 and you just want to be there for someone else, you're in an anxious attachment, which means you're seeking co-regulation with someone else. If you're an 8, it's about the self-regulation. How do you self-soothe? How do you not look to someone else? But your system is so accustomed to someone else, your person, so who's going to be the one who takes away your discomfort?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And because the Enneagram doesn't really support extremes anywhere, I think we're all going to find by the time I decide to do any declaring about all this in any writing, I think what we're all going to find is that we don't want to be at the top or the bottom of any of it intuitively.
Yeah.
And so when we find ourselves there, it comes with our regular, usual questions. So let's talk about 5s. I think they have the weirdest moves on the Enneagram in stress and security. It is so weird to me to be with a 5 in 8, and it's worse to be with a 5 in 7. And I love 5s. I mean, I want to be real clear about the fact that I really do love 5s. But man, oh man, when they're in 7, people look at them like, what happened to you? Yeah. And yet we're absolutely standing on, you can't take care of yourself as a 5 if you don't go to 7.
Yeah.
And so it has to be in the finding humor in all the things, and in being awkwardly participatory at times. And they seem to have enough going on to be able to handle that, but because the Enneagram's the Enneagram, I suppose. But 5 and 8 is so unexpected. It comes with a cost if you're in the shadow part of 8. So my friend Carolyn, she's been my best friend since I was 18. She's 10 years older than I am. Literally every time she's ever moved, we've moved her. And, she's a 5. So you say, are you packed up and ready to go? Yep. And then you get there and nope, not done. So then you pack and then you move. And I have said in every place she's lived, I think you ought to put this here and this here and this here. So we get to the last house, which she was able to pay for. So there's in the security of being a single woman with no children, retired, there's nothing to worry about because the house is paid for. So I say to her, man, I think it'd be so good if you put that bookcase right here on this wall and you could put the sofa and your chair right there. She said, well, I don't want to. I said, okay. Well, it would look really good right here. If you put it over here, this isn't going to work. Put it over here, this isn't going to work. So that's really the place to put it. She said these words to me. I can nail, talking about a sofa. I can nail it to the wall if I want to.
That's 8 energy.
You see that?
Yes.
I mean, that is just shadow. And my response, my response is I went to 8 and said, then nail the damn thing to the wall. So we find ourselves in a very interesting place in that we're both in unhealthy 8. and there's not enough time there for 5s. They don't spend enough time in security to spend enough time there to be good at it. So it comes out that way, sideways. So I think one of the things that we could have everybody look at, and then Kim, I don't know how this fits with shadow work, but I'm sure you do, is the things that you do in the extremes anywhere on the Enneagram are awkward. Even when you're your healthiest, it's awkward because you don't spend much time there. When you're in the big stress, it's awkward. When you're in big security, it's awkward. And we tend to pull back from things that are awkward for us. Awkward in shadow space is accompanied by the fact that when other people have behaved the way you see yourself behaving, you have thought that they were wrong, ridiculous, shouldn't do it, should do it differently. Is that immature shadow? Is there mature shadow?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, I know you're asking me, but also if I kind of just play off of Carl Jung's philosophy, is that, we view dark, sadly, in a negative way. And the shadow is not something to be in fear of or averse. The whole thing is, Carl Jung talks about that you do the work until when you're in the darkness, there's no shadow, and that it's in the light. Like there's an understanding, and this is depth of understanding. And I truly believe, especially right now in this political climate, if we all did this kind of work, we wouldn't be where we are. And that this is crucial for us to figure out what it is about someone else I'm repulsed by, whatever that is. There is some wound, there's some injury there for me, that instead of leaning in, when I lean away, I lean further into what's not working for me, but is comfortable for me. And that's not going to create the change in the world, our personal world and collectively, that we all drastically and desperately need right now.
Yeah, I'm a church gal and married to a pastor, and I'm always looking for who the prophets are. And I believe Richard Rohr's a prophet.
Yes.
And he started talking about duality and non-duality and dualistic thinking 25 years ago. And he talked about liminality 20 years ago. And we're in liminal space, behaving from dualistic stances. And that's just dark for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true.
The trick is that there's no way we're aware enough of the low side of our security number to recognize that what we're judging, we also have in us.
Yes.
And we can even sit and talk about it. And 2 hours from now, I can be judging and not.
Right.
Yeah. Or entitled.
Yeah.
And not be aware. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's so much of a seeking essence and whole self. And why what you said that brought us to this point of Larissa and I being so intrigued about the low side of the healthy number, the secure number, because I would have thought it would have been the high side of the unhealthy number, right? I would never have gone where you went. And that this is incredibly informative. And I think the charge for all of us, and Larissa, I'd love to hear you speak about this too, is this for this to come in today, top down, like let it come into your brain cognitively and come in to our system. But the work is bottom up. The work is really getting in with a spiritual director, with a therapist, with a spouse that is able to sit with you and co-regulate and co-heal in this, because this, to me, this is the work that needs to be done, but it is an embodiment. This is not just an intellectual understanding.
Yeah. I have been reading Eckhart Tolle again, The Power of Now. And as we knew we were going to do this podcast, I know he's talked about shadow, but he talks about it a little differently as the pain body. And I think this quote's pretty good. The pain body, which is the dark shadow cast by the ego, is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness. It is afraid of being found out. Its survival depends on your unconscious identification with it, as well as on your unconscious fear of facing the pain that lives in you. But if you don't face it, if you don't bring the light of your consciousness into the pain, you'll be forced to relive it again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting because as each of you talked, I felt from both of you and your words, I felt it bodily.
Yeah. That's a beautiful connection.
All right, let's get back on the triangle.
All right.
Threes. And remember from me talking about nines, when we're on the triangle, we kind of have to talk about stress and security. So we've got threes who are going to go to 9 in stress, but in security, they go to 6. And honestly, I think if you said, what would you like for your lines to be connected to? Which numbers would you like to be connected to? Those two would be the last two. And because they are so sure of themselves and doing what they can do correctly, let's just look at the 9 first, because the stress is easier for us to see, and then we'll be ready to look at the security in the bottom of that. And when a 3 goes to 9, then one of the ways I bet you 53s have described it this way to me over the years. I know I'm there when I'm laying on the couch with my remote.
Yeah.
However, 3s are the number that's the most disconnected or unaware of their own feelings and the feelings of other people. And they're in the feeling triad. So they take in information with feelings, and yet they set them aside all the time, so they're not connected to them. And if you don't connect to your feelings, then you can't enjoy the high side of security, and you can't learn to utilize the high side of stress. So if a 3 could utilize the high side of stress and lay on the sofa with the remote for 1 hour and then get back to doing what they do, that would be lovely. But once they get to the sofa and they get to where they're not constantly moving and achieving and reaching goals, then they shut down a little bit and they just stay. If we look at them then in terms of moving when they're feeling secure to 6 and then the low side of 6, then y'all know what's in the low side of 6, just anxiety about things there's no reason to be anxious about.
Yeah.
That's what resides right there.
Yeah.
And 3s, who normally are self-confident enough that they don't experience very much anxiety, grow anxious about many things. And when they talk about it, we all look at them like, what's wrong? Do you not feel well? Did you have a bad day? All those things aren't going to go wrong. You don't need to worry about that. You've done it 100 times. Yeah. But anxiety has energy. So on the low side of the security number, there's far more energy than there is on the low side of the stress number. And therefore, it's more comfortable to be where the energy is. Yeah. Because it's more familiar.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So my guess, and I mean it's a guess, and you can shoot it down right now, and I'll be fine. My guess is that 3s spend less time in security than most numbers because they know that what waits for them when they're secure is worried about many things.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I think they keep moving to their detriment to avoid sitting in 9 and to avoid worry about many things in 6.
Mm.
And it's a disconnect in relationship to feelings.
Mm.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That sounds impossible. That is great compassion for the complexity of being at that point. Yeah.
And we live in a 3 country.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a 3 culture.
Mm-hmm.
And in a 3 culture, for a number that's focused on success, it's possible to have great success that will cost you most of your time in anywhere but the shadow side of your security number.
Mm. Yeah.
So I believe that 3s are the number that we have the least compassion for.
Mm.
They don't look like they need it.
Yeah.
They don't act like they need it. And, their great concern in terms of lost childhood messages is that you're loved for what they believe, that they're loved for what they do and not for who they are.
Right.
And I think that's sometimes true.
Yeah. Mm.
So I think being on the triangle is difficult. The other 2 numbers are so different from them.
It's true.
And they move so quickly. Not because they have the energy to move quickly, but because they adapt better than any other number. So I don't know if it's been your experience or not that 3s really struggle with shadow work. But I would think it would be extraordinarily difficult.
There's usually great loss, and the loss has to be, in a sense, disidentifying with the image and success of work or success of motherhood, fatherhood, something, for there to be some entertainment of how to sit with their anxiety and not completely blend with it. Because the blending with it is where all of a sudden no one knows what to do with them because they can't get out of bed and they can't sleep and all the things start happening, and there's little patience for them in that place.
Yeah.
And towards themselves, they have little patience for themselves.
Sure. Expectations everywhere.
Yes.
And when you're good at meeting them, then what do you do when you're not?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the low side of 6 and the anxiety that comes with that could be very debilitating. It's like, I'm going to go home and close the door.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how you identify with a part of yourself if you're a 3 and you're in the closet.
Right.
Yeah.
And on average, a person who's in a 3 is going to deny what their system is showing them, deny what they're experiencing, and try to lean further into just do what we've always done. Just get the email sent. Just get this done. Right. And what I say to people a lot is a big step for a lot of us who have trauma is whatever your nervous system shows you, believe it and don't talk yourself out of it. And that's a starting place for 3s.
And if they did that, I think it could prevent dropping into that low side of their security number.
Yeah, I agree.
And the high side of the security number is so lovely because it's a place where they don't feel like they have to be the star. They don't have to be the leader. They don't have to be the best. They don't have to shine.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Really good.
All right, let's do 6s.
All right.
I think there are more 6s than other numbers. You also know that I believe anger and anxiety are falling on all of us all the time, unbidden and undesired right now. And I'm struggling with it. And Joe's struggling with it. And our adult children are struggling with it. And they're worried about their children. It's everywhere. So when we get to talking about compassion, and the reason I'm talking about this, and I'm going to stay here for a minute, is because I think 6s are less likely to move to their security number when things are like they are right now than any other number on the Enneagram. And I'm not saying this is right and this is wrong. I'm saying where we are right now as a country is just wrong. It involves everybody. It includes everybody. And it's just not good. So nobody needs to worry about my politics. I don't care who they voted for, and they don't need to care who I voted for. It's about something that's so much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to imagine. It's actually one of the little things that's on my daily prayer thing. What's it like to be a 6 today? What was it like to be a 6 yesterday and the day before and the day before? And I think that when 6s are able to move to 9 in security, they can breathe. Literally, almost literally, they can breathe when they have moments when they can go to 9. I can't imagine that they are able to go the high side of 9 very often. I think it's more likely that they go to the low side of 9. And what's on the low side of 9 is, I can't assert myself and nothing I do matters anyway. So it is what it is. And we just have to do another day. And at first, think about being a 6 with a lot of anxiety. And then what I just said, that's low 9. But at first, that sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah. Sounds inviting.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Until in that space, 6s think about how they feel about other people who are just sitting around saying, there's nothing I can do. And we're going to have to let this play out. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And once they recognize that in themselves, then they get, angsty enough to leave security.
Yeah.
Kim, you want to talk about that?
Well, I was just thinking, I just visualize almost like them being shot through a cannonball. Like it's just like they would be propelled so fast. It just feels like an involuntary compulsion,
right,
to go back.
Yeah, and I, actually the place that 6s can find the most safety on the Enneagram is in themselves.
I bet they don't know that.
No, they don't know that, and they don't trust themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't think we trust them either. And most importantly of all, they don't trust their own thinking. The triangle, it's complicated. It's a complicated place to be because whatever move you make, you're moving from being the core number of one center to behavior from the core number from another center, or yet the core number from another center. And so they're extreme.
Yeah. Very much.
And so all 3 of them have to make extreme moves when they move.
Yeah.
But they don't get a pass. It's hard for us to.
Yeah. But the
Right.
support, it's just, I feel like you're emphasizing the support they're going to need and calculated movement.
Right.
For
I
their
wonder.
overall mental health. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if you looked at your practice and talked to other therapists. I wonder how many 3s, 6s, or 9s they have coming for therapy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know I have my fair share. And 6s are incredibly endearing, and they're to watch so many of them play out. I see this more than anything, Suzanne. They play out a lot of their issues with doctors, with that level of authority, and their body symptoms and what they are experiencing and how their body is sharing the level of anxiety and them trying to plan around and how to get to that and being incredibly invalidated by the average doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we could all offer to 6s to help them a little bit in that move and to help them avoid the low side, their low side, but also to help them avoid the low side of 9. And I think that is that practice of write down the things you're worried about today. Estimate how much time you spend on that mental space. And then evaluate it at the end of the week and how much of that happened. So what could you have done? This is a different podcast for us to have, but what would this look like if we were balanced in thinking, feeling, and doing? And how would that affect our time and security as opposed to, and how would that affect our ability to stay in the high side of secure number rather than feel like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
It's a whole, it is holistic in its nature.
It is.
And it is deep in the wisdom that it offers us, I think.
Deep wisdom.
Yeah. Okay. What number have we not done?
Is there anything in addition you want to share about 4? We touched on 4, but we know how unique they are. They might want more airtime.
Yeah. I think we need to do a little 4 work.
All right.
So interesting to me because when 4s are secure, they focus outward more than inward, which is actually really interesting because they learn that from being in stress.
Yeah, low side too.
The thing, yes, the thing that 4s learn in stress is to focus somewhere besides on themselves. And that brings them good stuff, which moves them to security. And so that then moves them into 1 space. And I'm not saying this about all 1s. I'm saying this about a 4 that moves to 1 and a 4 that feels judged all the time and a 4 that feels like they don't fit in most of the time. And when a 4 moves to 1 in security, then on the low side of security, they're absolutely sure that they're right and everybody else is wrong. And, 4s
don't have too much.
Do y'all need a minute?
I just feel vindicated. That's all. I'm fine. I'm just straightening my crown a little bit. I'm good.
The thing that happens, interestingly enough, when a 4 is in any part of 1 is all their creativity comes out. And so good, it's like a guy or a woman or a trio who's been writing a song and they get it and they love it, but it's not written down anywhere. It's just in their heads. If they don't ever go to 1, it doesn't get written down. It was, remember that time we were working on that love song and then we didn't write it down and I can't remember it now anymore. And So all the dreams and fantasies and all the things come together in 4s in a way that when they're in 1, they can do something with it. The trick is they own what they did with it. And then in the low side of 1, it can't be discussed, corrected, changed, because it's absolutely complete and right. And for a 4 to feel that kind of security, for that security to then cause them trouble in relationships and in work relationships and collaborations and all the things, when that causes them trouble, then they go back to, I've never felt secure. And they use secure language, even if they don't know the Enneagram. And when I do feel safe, I end up making enemies. So I don't want to be there. People already don't understand me. I don't need enemies that don't understand me. So, Kim, I don't know what your words are to say about this, but I hope you have some, because I want to understand it better. But what I know about the low side of the security number in shadow is that it is absolutely inviting. And I feel like we all need to hold it at bay at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And is that just the nature of the shadow?
Yes, and I think it's also your brilliance and the wisdom that you bring to everything. And again, the understanding of, when there's a sense of self-sabotage, or I'm in a pattern, or I don't want something to happen, it keeps happening. Like, that's the indication to go into the shadow work. And I believe the Enneagram, the way you are framing it, because I haven't heard anyone else frame it this way, is allowing people another safe avenue that they can decide their own cadence. And that is crucial when you do deeper work, shadow work, of really figuring out what is within the shadow, what am I believing or repressing about myself that is affecting me in more ways than I can understand, and affecting people around me. And especially if you're a dependent stance, I think that's hard for people to grasp. It is affecting people around me, to bring in and to have the right support and the courage to really be able to do the work. And the work that shadow work I do personally, and the things I'm doing, I know without a spouse who was an Enneagram entrenched and informed, and someone who is able to abandon difficult topics but not self-abandon, I don't think I could do the work I've done since we've gotten married. And so support is crucial professionally, but also just having the friends, having some type of community where people can talk the Enneagram language, they speak shadow work. 100% agree. Like, this is what's next. It's necessary and next for so many people.
I also would think that it's like the Enneagram. I think for me it is anyway. Shadow work is like the Enneagram. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So you know it's there.
Agreed.
And you know that that's what you're in.
Yeah.
And yet you go there anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah.
It's been a curiosity for us as we're about to start doing interviews for cohorts again. And part of the curiosity is, do we ask about whether or not the people they live with, or partners, spouses, best friends, are supportive of Enneagram?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because, we get lots of people who come to us and say, I'm doing this really good, deep work, but my person isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do I do? And what's that going to cost me in this relationship? And, I that's a valid question. And I'm not a therapist, but the whole thing is, I don't know what it's going to cost you in the relationship, but what's going to cost you if you don't do it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'd make it parallel with, if you live with an alcoholic, you start going to Al-Anon. You don't wait for them to go to AA.
That's
You
right.
just go to Al-Anon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm aware of is that normally when the three of us are together talking about anything, there aren't things that we don't have a lot to say about.
True.
And when we get to this, there are things that we don't have a lot to say about because it's, I trust the two of you. I'd tell you anything.
Yeah.
It's so hard to define the healthy side of your stress number and the healthy side of your security number.
Yeah.
As opposed to the unhealthy side of each one.
Right.
And it's not my job because I'm not educated for it to do anything other than talk about the low side of your stress number.
Mm-hmm.
So, y'all know I'm working on a new book, and this is going to be a part of that new book.
Excellent.
And I'm going to have readers. So already I'm planning on asking y'all to be a reader because I wouldn't want you, Kim, to be reading without you, Larissa, reading with her.
Yeah.
And you have a quiet wisdom like Joe does that doesn't pop up very often, but when it does, man, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
And Kim, I can't even venture into shadow work. I need there to be a line where I do the Enneagram piece and leave it alone. Even though we can have this conversation about it.
Absolutely.
So as a reader, that your job is going to be to hold me to that line.
Yeah.
Because I could say the wrong thing easily and innocently and stop somebody's really good work that they're doing with a good therapist.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's an honor for both of us, and be more than happy to read and sit with it and just to bring, both of our perspective to it. And I'm just excited that you're writing about it. This is, again, anything that's going to bring transformation that becomes emotional, spiritual liberation for people. I'm all about, but you being a part of it brings it to another level for people. And we just appreciate you being such a part of our healing DNA and our Enneagram Foundation. Like I don't think it would have made sense, or I know we wouldn't have gotten to where we are, Larissa, without Suzanne's wisdom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's helped us individually in our relationship and
very much
significantly.
Well, thank you for that. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And as long as I keep finding new things to say, I'm going to try to say them.
Yeah. Well, you say them very well.
At the same time, I'm aware that all the gifts are necessary.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
And I think we've had some really good conversations today that will be good for people to hear because Larissa does what she does so well.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I'm so grateful for it.
And there will be people who will listen for the voice they haven't heard from much. And I just think there are some numbers who hesitate to speak up. And I want us all to be aware that when they do, we're listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have to be able to tune me out. Who could possibly listen to me for 8 hours while I just go on and on when I'm teaching? Nobody.
Well, I'm pretty sure, at least medicated for me, I can. And we did it for a year. And so grateful for that.
Yeah. Soaking it all in.
Yeah. Well, Suzanne, thank you. We know your time is valuable. And if you had a choice, you probably spend every second with Reverend Joe. So we thank you for sharing that time, space, energy, and most of all, your wisdom and bringing something just so innovative and something so worth exploration for people. We're talking about the low side of your number and the shadow within. This is really, really good. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for having me. It's an honor and a privilege, and it's just kind of fun. And the one disclaimer I would say is I haven't had a reader yet, and I haven't talked about this much. And so I'm not saying that every word that came out of my mouth is absolutely correct. I'm saying there's a possibility that what I'm exploring has really great value. And take what feels true and let the rest go.
That's right. So good.
That's great.
Well, everybody, I don't know exactly how you heard or what you heard today. I do know you heard at least one thing that flipped your lid, and we're hoping whatever that was, it allowed you to reconnect to who you really are and who that person is more than good enough. We'll see you next time. Hey, thank you. Thank you for listening to Flip Your Lid. So I just want to ask, if you've got a second, will you take time to subscribe, rate, and maybe even share this episode with someone that you think might get something from it? You can follow along with us through YouTube, Instagram, TikTok at kbhoneycutt.com. That's KBHONEYCUTT. And no matter what, please treat yourself well today. We'll see you next time.